Welcome back. I'm Leandra. If you're new, I'm Leandra. Oh God. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new, I'm Leandra the TBR0, and today I have 10 mysteries by Black authors to recommend to you. Clearly this is topical as I am publishing this just a couple weeks prior to Black History Month, which is observed by the United States in February. But with that said, whenever you happen upon this video, please add them to your TBR, especially if 1, 2, all 10 catch your eye, because while we definitely want to add Black voices to our TBRs in February, we also should be doing it every single month, and that extends to other races, other cultures, genders, and sexualities. Now that I've gotten that very important and obvious PSA out of the way, let's get into these recommendations. The Conjure Man Dies by Rudolph Fisher. I just finished this last night actually while reading it for She Done It, the podcast I work for, and I was so obsessed. I was so intrigued, and what's amazing about this is it's not only written but also set in Harlem in the 1930s. Rudolph Fisher was one of the Harlem Renaissance writers. He also was a well-known doctor and radiologist, so I just find him to be a really complex person in itself. The mystery at hand, though, is involving an impossible crime. This psychic, a medium, dies under extremely mysterious circumstances, and the assumption is that it must be one of the clients who was waiting for him that night to have their fortunes read. What makes this book so pivotal, especially to Black literature, is that it's considered the first book to feature a Black detective as well as an entire cast of Black characters. We are going to be following Detective Dart. He is a part of the Harlem Police Department, and he's assisted by Dr. Archer. I can't recommend it enough. I had myself on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what was going on, and the ending is dramatic, spectacular, and just a really good time. Pleasantville by Attica Locke. Now, this is the second book in the J. Porter series, and I have to provide you with a disclaimer. I haven't actually read the first one, which is called Blackwater Rising, but it's on my list. I had to read Pleasantville for a course during my master's, and the course focused on environmental literature because, yes, we have a mystery, a very important, kind of creepy, dark mystery that follows the disappearances of these young Black women. J. Porter and others wants to argue that these disappearances are clearly linked, but the police department refuses to acknowledge it. Meanwhile, Houston is being distracted by this tense mayoral campaign, and I cannot emphasize enough how much social commentary is jam-packed into this single book, especially when we're talking about environmental racism, the issues surrounding police and media not covering the disappearances of young Black children, and general corruption that is to be expected, unfortunately, especially when we're talking about cities that are as large as Houston. As someone who started with this book, Pleasantville, I would argue you don't have to go back and read Blackwater Rising first, but obviously if you end up reading that synopsis and you're intrigued, go ahead, go for it. I don't think you can go wrong with Attica Locke. The Intuitionist by Colson Whitehead. I have read this book twice, and it remains an all-time favorite 5-star read, and I'm obsessed. And that's coming from someone who has had mixed experiences with Colson Whitehead. I've DNF'd one of his books, and I've also given one of his books 4 stars. So I'm just all across the board with him, but The Intuitionist is so good, especially if you're someone who already loves him and you haven't read his debut book, because this was his first novel, and that blows my mind. Ends up following Lila Mae Watson. She is the first Black woman inspector with the Department of Elevator Inspectors. This is an alternate history with some science fiction, and in this alternate history, the focus is elevators. But what ends up being the catalyst for this novel is that Lila Mae Watson, being one of the best from her faction within the 2 different theories going around with inspecting elevators, one of her elevators goes into free fall, and that starts off this entire huge conspiracy. People are after her. She's wondering if someone ended up framing her, and if so, which side? Was it her own side, or was it the other theorists? And what is going on with these mysterious black boxes? I can't get more into it because I went in blind, and I think you should too, but this is such a good book, and not enough people talk about it, especially when we're talking about Whitehead as an author. Ophi's Ghosts by Justina Ireland. I was really lucky to get this as an ARC a handful of years ago when it came out, and I still think about this book. It is middle grade, it's a paranormal mystery, and it follows our young protagonist, Ophi. She and her mother end up fleeing Georgia after the death of her father due to racial violence, and they end up going up to Pittsburgh to start anew. Her mother ends up working at this estate, and she, of course, follows along and gets a job herself. And while they're there, Ophi begins to realize that she can see the ghosts that are at this estate, and there seems to be one particular ghost in the attic that only has one thing on their mind, which is vengeance. And Ophi has to figure out what happened to this ghost, why they are so angry, and how to bring peace back to this estate. I just thought it was gripping. It's so good. And there are moments of personification of the train that they take up to Pittsburgh, of the city of Pittsburgh, of the estate itself. And it's really well done, and I can't recommend it enough. From the Desk of Zoe Washington by Janae Marks. This is another middle grade, but it's set in modern times, and our main character, Zoe, is celebrating her 12th birthday when she ends up receiving this letter from her father. We end up learning that he is in prison for a crime that he tells her he never committed. This leads Zoe to ask questions, wondering if she can trust her father, if she wants a relationship with him, and if it's true, if he really didn't commit the crime that he is now serving for, what does that mean? How can she deal with the justice system as it is, and how can she help her father through this experience? I just thought it was moving while also being very informative for the middle grade level. I think it was done well, and I also don't think it's a topic that should be ignored for middle grade readers. They should and can be trusted with this type of information, and I think everyone should read it, to be honest. Classic Leandra, always forgetting that I actually own these books. What am I doing? For some reason, I just want to give more work to editing Leandra, but anyways, I wanted to pause after providing those 5 recommendations by giving a bit of a disclaimer before we get into the next 5. These are ones that are on my February TBR, and if I don't get to them in February, I very much plan on reading them sometime in 2025, because as I said, yes, we should be adding Black voices to our February TBRs, but we should be adding them every single month. So just keep that in mind. And I thought it could be really fun to show that I am someone who also can grow and learn and gain new voices from the Black community within my TBR shelves. And that's what I fully plan to do. So as I'm going through this, if you can come up with a few titles, not only ones that you absolutely love and you can recommend as well, but please be sure to add in the comments ones that are on your radar. And then we can have a discussion about how excited we are to read those books, and yeah, just keep everyone accountable. Glory Be by Danielle Arsenault. This was just added to my own radar within the last week, thanks to Survasha, one of my Manor guests. She really enjoyed it. She says it's a cozy mystery that has so many important moments of social commentary as well, and I'm intrigued. I'm adding it to my TBR. It's a hot, sticky Sunday in Lafayette, Louisiana, and Glory has settled in her usual after-church routine, meeting gamblers at the local coffee shop, where she works as a small-time bookie. Sitting at her corner table, Glory hears that her best friend, a nun beloved by the community, has been found dead in her apartment. When the police declare the mysterious death a suicide, Glory is convinced that there must be more to the story, and with her reluctant daughter, with troubles of her own in tow, launches a shadow investigation in a town of oil tycoons, church gossips, and a rumored voodoo priestess. Yeah, that sounds really interesting, and I'm glad I could add a bit of a cozy mystery to this list, because that's something I need to be more thoughtful of, and that's a subgenre that I need to get more into. Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Yamide. I have this on my TBR thanks to The Manor. It's going to be our read for Only Murders in the Book Club this February, and I'm really excited for it. It's YA mystery, which can be hit or miss for me, but because it's set at a school and there's definitely going to be some tension, almost thriller vibes, I might actually find this to be really fascinating. Welcome to Niveus Private Academy, where money paves the hallways and the students are never less than perfect, until now, because anonymous texter Aces is bringing 2 students' dark secrets to light. Talented musician Devon buries himself in rehearsals, but he can't escape the spotlight when his private photos go public. Head girl Chiamaka isn't afraid to get what she wants, but soon everyone will know the price she has paid for power. Someone is out to get them both. Someone who holds all the aces, and they're planning much more than a high school game. Yeah, this definitely leans more thriller than mystery, but I'm kind of intrigued, especially if there really isn't a dead body. I'm always impressed when authors can include a mystery that doesn't have a dead body, even though, Farida, if you do, I'm game. I'm just assuming because it hasn't been mentioned in the synopsis. Blanche on the Lamb by Barbara Neely. This is an author I've been meaning to read for quite some time, and actually the second author that has published a book on this list in the 1990s, which I'm here for. I like that I'm diversifying my shelves also when it comes to year of publication, because we always end up seeing the bright and shiny, you know, books published in 2023, 2024, 2025. So it's nice that I've added quite a few oldies on my list. Blanche White is a plump, feisty, middle-aged African-American housekeeper working for the genteel rich in North Carolina. But when an employer stiffs her and her checks bounce, she goes on the lam, hiding out as a maid for a wealthy family at their summer home. That plan goes awry when there's a murder, and Blanche becomes the prime suspect. So she's forced to use her savvy, her sharp wit, and her old girl network of domestic workers to discover the truth and save her own skin. Along the way, she lays bare the quirks of Southern society with humor, irony, and a biting commentary that makes her one of the most memorable and original characters ever to appear in mystery fiction. Yeah, that sounds really fun. I'm down. Hollywood Homicide by Kelly Garrett. This is another cozy mystery. I'm realizing that all of the ones that are on my radar are cozies pretty much, except for Ace of Spades. But you know what? I'm here for it. And this one looks really fun. It looks a bit more edgy, set in Hollywood. It's the first in the Detective by Day series. And here's the synopsis. Dana Anderson doesn't set out to solve a murder. All the semi-famous, mega-broke black actress wants is to help her parents keep their house. After witnessing a deadly hit and run, she figures pursuing the 15 grand reward isn't the craziest thing a Hollywood actress has done for some cash. What? Okay, that's really cool. I also love that she's an actress. It suggests that she might be able to use her skills on the stage to maybe persuade people to talk to her. And also the fact that it's a hit and run, that's a bit of an edgier, kind of darker crime. It's a bit more startling. So this seems really interesting. Okay. All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. We are getting darker and darker with every recommendation, I swear, and it was not intentional. This one definitely leans more thriller, especially because I know that it involves a serial killer. But the reason why I'm assuming that it does have some mystery tendencies is because our main character, our detective, is a black sheriff. So we will probably have some moments of police procedural vibes. I have been warned to keep in mind the content warning for this one because it does get into darker, more serious concepts. So just keep that in mind. But I have never read anything by S.A. Cosby, and I think I need to fix that. So I have this on my radar. I believe it's his newest publication, so that's why I have my eye on it, but I could always go to his backlist too. A black sheriff, a serial killer, a small town ready to combust. Titus Crown is the first black sheriff in the history of Charron County, Virginia. In recent decades, Charron has had only 2 murders. After years of working as an FBI agent, Titus knows better than anyone that while his hometown might seem like a land of moonshine, cornbread, and honeysuckle, secrets always fester under the surface. Then a year to the day after Titus's election, a school teacher is killed by a former student, and the student is fatally shot by Titus's deputies. Those festering secrets are now out in the open and ready to tear the town apart. As Titus investigates the shootings, he unearths terrible crimes and a serial killer who has been hiding in plain sight, haunting the dirt lanes and woodland clearings of Charron, with the killer's possible connections to a local church and the town's harrowing history weighing on him. Titus projects confidence about closing the case while concealing a painful secret from his own past. At the same time, he also has to contend with a far-right group that wants to hold a parade in celebration of the town's Confederate history. As I mentioned, probably the most hard-hitting book on this list, although I would say Pleasantville is also kind of a close second. And those are 10 mysteries by Black authors that I recommend you add to your TBR, either because I've read and loved them or because they're on my TBR as well. Thank you so much for getting to the end. Please be sure to provide any comments with recommendations of your own. If you've been here the entire time and you want to prove to me that you were here but you're not feeling chatty, you can always do any emoji that represents mysteries. So the puzzle, the dice, the detective, maybe a knife, I don't know. And thank you to my Manor guests. I cannot wait to read Ace of Spades with you guys. I think it's going to be a hit. I just have a good feeling about Ace of Spades. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for getting to the end. And if you need more mystery recommendations, click on this video because it will have a whole bunch. Okay, bye everyone.